this is Julia James Davis, and welcome to The War on Beauty. There is literally a war being waged against women right now, and not only do they not know it, but they are actively participating in their own destruction. We are living in more of a patriarchy now in 2024 than we ever have been. Why? Because of feminism. Now, women are taking their directions for their entire lives directly from the government, and they are becoming slaves to corporate and financial institutions. And the cherry on top of all of that, they get to directly compete against men now, not just in sports, but in every area of life, because we are all equal now. Women have traded millennia of childbearing and family making, our objective divine purpose, in order to become debt slaves, to get a degree in gender studies or marketing, trading the prime of a woman's life to just go sit in a cubicle in an office building instead of creating a family. How is that liberation? It's not. That is slavery. And there is an objective war going on, not just on women, but on humanity. But if you're aiming to take down humanity, who better to go after than the women, the only people that can keep the human race going? The real patriarchy isn't, and actually maybe never was, men. It doesn't matter what sex you are, if you're a man or a woman, because it's about the ideology behind someone or something that makes you patriarchal. So our real patriarchy is actually just the institutions that run us. Corporate, government, financial, educational, which ultimately have brainwashed women not just to accept, but actually advocate for their own end and all of humanity's end. So what are these equal rights that women are aching for that they seemingly do not have yet? Well, maybe it's the right to become as equally chained to mountains of debt as men are. Women now hold 2/3 of the nation's student debt. That is 61% of the student loans out there are held by women. This has led to 44% of women ages 18 to 29 has said that debt has led them to delay buying a home, delay getting married, delay having children, or making any other life adjustments, as opposed to just 34% of men in the same age bracket. Why do they hold such a disproportionate amount of the student loans? Because women are earning degrees at a higher rate than men. In 2022, 39% of women had a 4-year degree. Compare that to 36.6% of men. And overall, more and more Americans are just getting more college degrees. It is up 16% since 2019. But women especially are getting more educated, and with that, they are getting more indebted. And the average student loan debt, it's a lot. It is $37,853. So women are starting life, their prime of life, in a deeper financial hole than men are. But the feminist movement said one of their main things was education. Women need to go and get a college degree, a higher education, because if you don't have a higher education, then you can't get that good corporate job. Okay, but now women are being literally suffocated by their debt. They can't have a family, they can't buy a home. So that's horrible. And one of the big things too that really not only really upsets me, but it actually makes me so sad is abortion. This is a main topic, especially in politics, for girls. Abortion is the number one thing that I feel like all women voters are consider when they're voting. A lot of what I hear about abortion is healthcare. Abortion is a fundamental right for a woman that is life-saving. Okay, however, there are over 1 million abortions in the US per year, which is literally a genocide every single year. And the main reason that women are getting abortions is 74% say it would interfere with education or work or the ability to care for dependents. So most people are getting abortions because they need to go to school, because they need to work, which probably to pay off their student loans. And also, 73% of women who got abortions say they could not afford to have a baby. And 48% did not want to become a single mom. Just 1% of abortions were for rape, and 0.5% of abortions were for incest. So that is a sliver of a fraction. The overwhelming majority just can't have kids. They need to go to work, get their education, just like the feminist movement said. They said you need to go have education and just in general be free and unchained from a child. All of this together has literally been the biggest psyop and clear physical and spiritual attack on women, and not just on women, but on innocence. Everyone can agree the most innocent thing on planet Earth is a baby, especially one that has not been born yet. So where are we now as women? Okay, we've been told, sleep around, get pregnant because it doesn't matter, you can abort the baby, get deeply in debt, and then because you're in debt, you have to go to work for the rest of your life. That is not freedom. This was all brilliantly devised by the government to get more money out of women. Of course, this is all about money. First of all, when you take the woman out of the home and get her working, you're growing the tax base by double. Before you get to go to work, you get to go to a university to get a college degree. Before you do that, you're gonna go to a bank and take out a loan, which is the number one asset for a bank is a loan. That's how they make a lot, if not the large majority of all of a bank's income comes from giving people loans. The government is making money, the banks are making money, the educational institutions are making money, all because women now have bought into the feminist movement. These universities too could let women go for free. For example, Harvard has a $50.7 billion endowment. There is no reason that every single woman that goes through Harvard can't have a completely free education, but there's a reason, and probably a lot of universities have huge endowments. But they don't want to. They could, but they don't want you to get a free education because that would not be good for the banks. Lastly, and this is something that is kind of news to me that I was so shocked by, abortions are not free. They're actually very expensive. Abortion pills in early stage abortion is $800. And this goes up to, if you're getting into the second trimester, that goes into $2,000. So that is $800 to $2,000. I'm not sure if women are not able to have kids because they can't afford it. I don't know where they're getting that money from. In 2022, Planned Parenthood had revenues of $1.9 billion. That is so insane. We are at a point now where girls too are so deeply attached to this perceived right of abortion that they are literally willing to trade their right to vote, their democracy, in order to keep it.
Would you rather have a democracy or access to abortions?
Either or. I feel like that's a very tough question to answer. I feel like that's almost not possible.
Can we get a final answer? I know it's hard.
I guess access to abortions.
Which to me seems very at odds with the entire feminist suffragette movement to begin with. That has to be a certain level of brainwashing because that is irrational. That girls now are they would rather not vote than have access to abortion. We don't live in a democracy anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter. We don't have a democracy. We live in a corporatocracy, which is why the feminist movement works so well and is so necessary for our society now. Our economic and political system is controlled by corporate interests who are using women for profit. And that could literally only happen with the rise of feminism because men were not cutting the mustard anymore. How did this feminist movement happen in the first place? Well, of course, actually, the government crafted it to their uses. They saw it coming up and they said, you know what, let us jump in on that and make sure that we can get in on that to use that to make more money. Gloria Steinem, the person that arguably mainstreamed this entire movement, is a confirmed CIA agent. She and her magazine, Miss Magazine, were funded by the CIA. They had a huge readership. The first week of Miss Magazine coming out, they sold something like 300,000 issues, probably 100% of that going to women and a lot of young women. And they really popularized those issues of abortion, education, and this general idea that women were not free and needed to be liberated. So the CIA literally used Gloria Steinem as an agent of propaganda, and this is not like something I'm just making up. You can go Google this. You can go to the CIA.gov. This is all out there. The CIA used Gloria Steinem. They sent her around the world to be an agent of counter-Soviet propaganda and promote her ideas, not just in the United States, but literally around the world, which we can see how that has really worked out. This is Gloria Steinem's own words about the CIA. She says the CIA was a, quote, liberal, non-violent, and honorable institution. That is not a feminist, liberal, or non-violent institution, okay? But she was working for them and bankrolled by them, so she's, you know, happy with them. So what you really think, what women really think is counter-establishment and progressive is actually right in line with what the government wants. Why would the government fund a magazine with Gloria Steinem as the head of it? Just why? You just have to think about that for a second. And what those values they were promoting, why have they become so deeply held by women in the United States? It's actually something I really want all the girls watching to think about. Why? Fast forward to 2024. We have the same thing happening now where pop stars and fashion magazines and influencers are really vehemently pushing this feminist pro-abortion agenda to their young women audiences. After decades and decades of messaging these values, I guess you could call them, it's not ending well for women. 45% of women by 2030 will be single and childless, and 1 in 4 women now are on SSRIs. Those are two statistics that I say a lot because to me, that is just mind-blowing. Most women in the near future are not going to have a husband or a child, which if you just project your life out, that is sad. It's just objectively really, really sad. And that women are on antidepressants at a much higher rate than men are. And also too, now that we've voted and advocated for all of this, not only that, but like women now are potentially going to be drafted to the front lines of a World War III in order to pay off their student loans. So all of that was part of the feminist movement. It's equality. It truly is literally the equal right to become indebted, to get an education that is largely useless, to literally eventually be drafted into the army. Women are the most beautiful, the most innocent, there is something about a woman that you can only get in a woman. And a large part of the war on beauty is the war on women and on the destruction of innocence. All of the most unique, divine, wonderful parts of womanhood are being crushed. They are being crushed and erased and labeled as bad. And I think that really the most feminist thing that we can do is lean into our femininity, which is, I always say, the most amazing icon of what that is Mother Mary, and who is someone that we can follow instead of Gloria Steinem. We can look to Mother Mary as the most perfect woman that's ever lived, who is literally fulfilling the divine purpose of womanhood. And that is ultimately the most liberated that a woman can be and the most fulfilled that a woman can be. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this gets you thinking a little bit about all of these values that we hold as just having always been there, that we really should question where they came from and why we're so attached to it. Maybe you might think about it and just say, well, I'm still feminist. That's fine. But let's just think about it and have a discourse anyway, because that is always very fruitful. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.